A very warm welcome. You're watching NDTV 24/7. I'm Shonakshi Chakravarti. The big focus. India is part of 13 countries who have joined a new US-led Asia-Pacific trade initiative touted as a counterweight to China's aggressive expansion in the region. India will work for an inclusive and flexible Indo-Pacific economic framework, Prime Minister Narendra Modi said in Tokyo, adding that trust, transparency and timeliness are three pillars to ensure growth in the region. China has criticized the IPEF as an attempt to create a closed club. The Prime Minister in Japan is attending a Quad summit. Take a look.
वाओ,
please.
तो कहाँ से सीख लिया तुमने हिंदी? बहुत अच्छा जानते हो। वाह वाह।
भारत एक inclusive.
A day ahead of the big Quad summit in Tokyo, India signed up for an Indo-Pacific economic framework led by the United States, along with 11 other countries. The initiative is seen as another move to counter China's dominance in the region. These 12 countries account for 40% of the world's GDP, and the framework is aimed at ensuring resilient supply chains, investment in clean energy, infrastructure, and setting the rules for a digital economy.
हमारे बीच रेजिलियंट सप्लाई चेन्स के तीन मुख्य आधार होने चाहिए: ट्रस्ट, ट्रांसपेरेंसी एंड टाइमलीनेस। मुझे विश्वास है कि यह फ्रेमवर्क इन तीनों स्तंभों को मजबूत करने में सहायक होगा।
The vision for an Indo-Pacific that is free and open and secure as well as resilient, where economic growth is sustainable and is inclusive. We're writing the new rules for the 21st century economy.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi, meanwhile, met with top executives of over 30 Japanese companies, inviting them to make in India for the world. A commitment on helping India with smart cities and 5G was made by the head of Japan's NEC Corporation. Among the other top CEOs Mr. Modi met were the heads of SoftBank and clothing giant Uniqlo.
India is growing very quickly. A new startup every day, new unicorns coming very quickly. I think India's future is bright.
China, however, was clearly the elephant in the room. Beijing has already reacted angrily to the Quad meeting, saying it was doomed to fail. President Biden created a stir when he said the US was ready to help Taiwan militarily if China invaded. A big departure from the stated US position, which has been one of strategic ambiguity. However, the White House backpedaled just moments later, stressing there was no change in policy.
I support the peace and stability that's going to continue and we hope to increase across the Taiwan Straits, promote freedom of navigation in the East and South China Seas, and to deter the Democratic People's Republic of Korea.
After today's events in Tokyo, all eyes will now be on tomorrow's big Quad in-person meeting, which will be focused on Chinese aggression in Indo-Pacific region, Russia's invasion of Ukraine and the resulting food crisis, and the most important point will be India's position on all of these issues. In Tokyo, Akshay Dongre for NDTV.
In fact, the Prime Minister also greeted and met with the Indian diaspora there as he attended the Quad summit. It's over to Akshay for all the details on the latest from that summit.
So right now we are in Tokyo, and today was the first day of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's two-day visit to the Japanese capital. Today Prime Minister Narendra Modi held meetings with several of Japanese business leaders. He also met with several members of Indian diaspora who are living in Japan. I have several of them with me here, many of them entrepreneurs, many of them venture capitalists. We'll try and speak to them first and try to understand that what exactly were their expectations from this particular visit and what exactly are they feeling about the Prime Minister of India visiting their country now. So we can call Japan your country now. You have been living here for how
It's
long?
our second home, I would say. But we still, our heart still belongs to India, I would say.
Your heart is
But
there.
we are still very comfortable out here, and Japanese people do treat Indians very nicely. We are considered people of very high IQ, very good in math, very good social skills, and quite nice people. We have a very good image out here.
Okay. What about you? Prime Minister came here. What were your expectations? Were they fulfilled by the visit of Prime Minister?
Yes, Akshay, really with Modi ji coming and the whole startup initiative, myself, I came to Japan to work. I worked with a manufacturing company for about 5-6 years, and then I ventured out myself. And with Modi ji giving this kind of support, people like me who are starting off from Tokyo, we get that motivation, and we want to bring technology from Tokyo through India to India and to the world. So this is our motivation. Yes.
What about you? You have been here for how many years now?
Yeah, it's been like 6 years, more than 6 years, and I was working in the industry, automotive industry, and I was started working in startup ecosystem in the investment. So I've been doing venture partnerships in India from Japan, and the message is being more stronger and stronger with the time. And you will see, like right now, we have so much capital just trying to get into India, and you will see a lot of things. And one trend I would like to highlight, in the previous time there was more about SaaS and fintech companies, more software oriented companies, but now you will see that healthcare is getting a new gear.
All right, shifting focus from Tokyo to Davos. As the World Economic Forum gets underway there, India has been selling stability and growth. Indian states make a strong pitch as key investment destinations. The anti-conversion law will not come in the way of the growth story in Karnataka. That's what the Karnataka Chief Minister Basavaraj Bommai said to NDTV, that investor confidence is huge and that every state has domestic issues. Listen in.
You're here in Davos, you're looking to bring in investment, and yet the headlines back home in Karnataka have to do off late with this conversion bill, the anti-conversion bill and all. Does that affect, the message that you're trying to sell here?
It has nothing to do with investments, nothing to do with growth story. See, I'm telling you, for the last 4 quarters, a lot of other issues, domestic issues are there. You tell me which state doesn't have domestic issues, one way or the other. But the confidence of the investor, both outside the country and inside the country, is so huge that it is nothing to do that. And these are the laws which come, and it will have a scrutiny of courts also. And these are the issues, domestic issues which have been raised up. We have to tackle them also.
Right.
So that is also our responsibility. However, these things are never going to affect the growth story.
And from Davos, let's shift focus to some political news in the country. Telangana Chief Minister K. Chandrasekhar Rao is on a national tour in which he is meeting like-minded regional political leaders ahead of not just the general elections in 2024, but also another election looming in on the horizon, presidential polls that is scheduled in July. The opposition is yet to announce a joint candidate for the presidential election, and the regional parties play a key role in the opposition's contest against the National Democratic Alliance's candidate. My colleagues Akhilesh Sharma and Nidhi Razdan have more.
BJP President JP Nadda, Home Minister Amit Shah and the party General Secretary organization BL Santosh, they had a more than 4-hour long meeting at party President Nadda's residence. They basically did the homework because the BJP is hopeful to win at least 20 seats out of these 57. And in the typical fashion, we have seen the BJP tries to grab extra seats. So in Karnataka, for example, BJP would try to win 3rd seat. In Uttar Pradesh, the BJP would like to win the 8th seat. And they wanted to complete the homework before the Prime Minister returns so that all these names can be put before the Central Election Committee.
In the last few days alone, the Telangana Chief Minister has met Delhi's Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal. He's going to be meeting Mr. Devegowda and H.D. Kumaraswamy tomorrow. He's going to go on later this month to Bengal, where he's likely to meet Mamta Banerjee. That will be significant. He's already met Uddhav Thackeray and Sharad Pawar in Maharashtra. So he's met a range of political leaders, with the significant exception of the Congress, because KCR is pushing for a non-Congress, non-BJP front, and I think he'd like to see where the chips fall as far as the presidential race is concerned. He's also going to be meeting Naveen Patnaik because he's again important. He's an outlier. He's a fence sitter when it comes to the NDA, and actually all the BJP really needs is either Naveen Patnaik's support or Jagan Reddy's support, and it's sort of home free when it comes to this presidential election. The KCR clearly not keen on involving the Congress, and the Congress, I think, which is dealing with its own internal issues, has not been saying anything about the presidential election and whether they would put up a candidate, whether that would even be acceptable to the Congress at this time, to the rest of the opposition at this time, is another big point. That just last week Rahul Gandhi made that comment about regional parties not having the ideology to fight the BJP, and that's actually upset the Congress's own allies who are regional parties as well. So I think KCR hoping to get in on that sentiment as well.
In fact, staying with more political news from the national capital, Delhi has got its new Lieutenant Governor in Vinay Kumar Saxena just days after his predecessor Anil Baijal resigned, citing personal reasons. Till recently, Mr. Saxena was the chairman of the Khadi and Village Industries Commission. The role of the Lieutenant Governor had been at the heart of an all-out power tussle between Delhi's Aam Aadmi Party government and the BJP, which rules at the centre for years until a landmark Supreme Court judgment in 2018 had spelled out their powers more clearly. Some of India's startups have been laying off staff in recent weeks, indicating that things are not as bright for the Indian startup ecosystem, which leads to big questions like, are the startups really staring at an uncertain future? Here is a report.
Employees of M-Fine sitting on the footpath outside a telemedicine service startup at HSR layout in Bengaluru after having been laid off, staring at an uncertain future in the middle of a pandemic.
Actually, it is very difficult that all of a sudden we had a plan layoff, and we have a huge amount of EMIs to be paid and day-to-day expenses of a home. So,
in the latest round of layoffs, around 600 M-Fine employees were fired from their jobs, adding to the already massive layoffs by companies like Cars24, Meesho and Unacademy, where at least over 2,000 employees in the last 2 months were given pink slips.
So we have definitely changed our goals for the year. It cannot be only growth. It has to be growing profitably. So we have changed those goals, basis which we have prioritized certain things and deprioritized certain things, which is, as I said, would be happening everywhere in the ecosystem. So we have done that. We are a lot more focused on margin right now.
Some of the startup founders say one of the major reasons for these massive layoffs has been the pressure from the investors on profitability and the efforts to cut cash burn.
Like
Sri Vikraman, the co-founder of Games 24/7, an Indian-based multi-game platform which made it to the Unicorn Club this year, says that this is only to be expected.
To be honest, it sounds like the startup story is not real because now finally layoffs are starting to happen, and what is with the unicorn story if all these layoffs are happening? But to be honest, it's just part of the creative destructive cycle that you have with innovation.
Another startup founder opined that the competition was tough in the startup business.
There are risks of talent, there are risks of competition, there are risks of funding. But I guess overcoming all these risks to not only build a big business but also create massive impact is the joy of entrepreneurship.
2021 was the peak of funding for many startups, but from the start of 2022 we've seen over 5,000 employees rendered jobless. In fact, startup companies are now changing their direction to profitability and margin increasing as well. Just like how Mr. Vidit Atre, who's the co-founder of Meesho, pointed out, more layoffs are expected in the coming days. In Bengaluru, with camera person Kumar Shrija for NDTV.
And India's ASHA workers have received a global honor at the Global Health Assembly. Not just that, but the Prime Minister, who is on a Japan visit to attend the Quad Summit, also praised them. He said, "I salute them all." Listen in.
भारत की लाखों आशा बहनें मैटरनल केयर से लेकर के वैक्सीनेशन तक, पोषण से लेकर के स्वच्छता तक देश के स्वास्थ्य अभियान को गति दे रही है। और गांव के अंदर मैं आज जापान की धरती से हमारी सभी आशा वर्कर बहनों को हृदय से बहुत बहुत बधाई देता हूं, उनको सैल्यूट करता हूं।
Shifting focus to monkeypox virus, more than 90 cases of monkeypox have been confirmed in at least 14 countries. Belgium has become the first country to make a 21-day quarantine compulsory for monkeypox patients. Let's go across to NDTV's Parmeshwar Baba for the latest update.
Belgium has become the first country to introduce a compulsory 21-day monkeypox quarantine, as 14 countries now confirm clusters of this viral disease, and doctors warn of a significant rise in UK cases. Now, Belgian health authorities have said that those who contract the virus will now have to self-isolate for 3 weeks. This is after 3 cases were recorded in the country, and all the cases are linked to one festival in the port city of Antwerp. Meanwhile, the United Nations AIDS Agency has called some reporting on the monkeypox virus racist and homophobic, warning of stigma while undermining the response to this growing outbreak. The UNAIDS Deputy Executive Director has said stigma and blame undermine trust and capacity to respond effectively during outbreaks like this one. Now, no specific vaccine for monkeypox is out yet, but a smallpox jab offers 85% protection since the two viruses are quite similar. Monkeypox is less deadly than smallpox, with a mortality rate below 4%. But experts are worried about the unusual spread of the disease beyond Africa, where it usually circulates. While acknowledging that the outbreak is unusual and raises unanswered questions, experts also stress that any risk to the public for now is low, given monkeypox's relatively low rate of contagiousness. But as far as the remedy is concerned, there's no treatment that exists yet, but doctors say the symptoms usually clear up after 2 to 4 weeks.
In fact, monkeypox is slowly becoming the new global epidemic, with over 12 countries affected by the virus. As of date, there have been no confirmed or even one suspected case of that zoonotic disease. But India's own BMC, which is basically Mumbai's civic body, BMC, has announced the steps that it is set to implement to battle this new virus. Shifting focus to some weather, the Char Dham Yatra to Kedarnath was halted on Monday amid gutsty winds, heavy rain and snowfall in Uttarakhand, even as the pilgrimage to Gangotri and Yamunotri and Hemkund Sahib and Badrinath continued as usual. The district administration cited the pilgrims' safety and stopped the yatra for the Kedarnath shrine at the Rudraprayag. District Disaster Management Officer has said that due to the heavy rain, the pilgrims who have arrived in the particular area called Ukhimat and Gaurikund were asked to stay there until further announcement, as winds, thunderstorms and lightning posed a risk to them on their way to Kedarnath.